You know, you hear stories about princes and kings, but this one is different. Imagine a prince who has literally everything you could ever want: unlimited wealth, power, a life of just pure pleasure. And now imagine that the only thing he wants is to escape. This is that story. It's about him, his father who loved him so much he built him a gilded cage, and a really surprising truth about their big disagreement. All right, let's get into it. So, this is really the heart of it all, right? It's a total paradox, and it makes you stop and think about what happiness even is. I mean, how could someone who was born into a perfect world see it as a prison? Well, as we're about to find out, the answer didn't come from his world at all. It came from somewhere else entirely. Okay, so let's set the scene. Our story kicks off in this ancient kingdom ruled by a guy named King Yan Yi. And we're not talking about just any kingdom. This place was on another level, a realm of just unbelievable splendor, where people lived for what seemed like forever. The capital city itself was literally built from 7 different kinds of treasures. And it's into this world of absolute, perfect materialism that a very, very special son is born. This prince, Prince Fu Yan, he wasn't your average royal baby. The day he was born, 7 new treasure troves just appeared out of nowhere. The whole kingdom went wild with celebration. They even freed prisoners. That's how big a deal it was. And the kid's talents? Completely off the charts. It took him just 7 days, 7, to master every single art and skill the world had to offer. He was, for all intents and purposes, the perfect prince for a perfect kingdom. So, you'd think the stage was set for a life of just non-stop enjoyment, right? But that's when a message cut right through that perfect world. And this wasn't from a court advisor or some messenger. It came from beings from a higher plane, these celestial beings called the Devas of the pure abodes. And the message they had for him was a pretty stark warning. They told him not to be heedless. You know, that kind of spiritual laziness you get when you're just too comfortable. They reminded him that everything, even his seemingly endless life in this perfect world, is impermanent. It all passes as swiftly as a shadow. And hearing this, it changed absolutely everything for him. The effect was, well, immediate and just profound. This perfect prince who had every single reason in the world to be happy suddenly falls into this decade-long existential crisis. He just stops. No sleeping, no laughing, no enjoyment in any of the pleasures that surrounded him. It's like he could suddenly see past the glittering surface of his world to the truth that it wasn't going to last. His father, King Yan Yi, sees all this, and he reacts in the only way he knows how. He decides he's going to basically smother his son's sadness with an overwhelming amount of pleasure. He builds a brand new city for him, this gilded cage called Shengxi Lei Sheng, which means City of Supreme Joy. It was a fortress of fun, with every luxury you could dream of, all designed for one thing: to distract the prince and make him love the world again. And this, of course, sets the stage for a really heart-wrenching confrontation. It's more than just a disagreement. It's a fundamental clash between 2 completely different worldviews. It's this powerful conversation between a father who sees happiness in the material world and his son, who now sees that same world as the source of all suffering. You can just feel the king's desperation here, can't you? His plea, it comes from a place of real love. He built this paradise for his son, and to see him so miserable right in the middle of it is just torture for him. From the king's perspective, to reject these pleasures is to reject happiness itself. And this is the prince's reply. It's so clear and calm. He explains that everything his father calls pleasure, he now sees as just an illusion, the very root of suffering. For him, real joy isn't about getting more stuff from the world, it's about being liberated from the world. So here's what it all boils down to: this deep, unbridgeable gap between them. For the father, all this worldly love and splendor, that is paradise. That's the whole point of life. But for the son, that exact same world is a prison of desire, and the only goal is to find the way out. They're looking at the exact same reality and seeing 2 completely different things. So after 10 years of just thinking about it, the prince's quiet sadness turns into an active mission. He knows what he wants to escape from, but now a new message from the heavens is about to show him what he needs to run to. Yep, the same celestial beings who warned him in the first place, they come back with new information. There is a living, enlightened teacher in the world right now, a Buddha by the name of Cheng Li Hui. And this is the game changer. The prince's abstract wish for liberation now has a concrete destination and a guide to get him there. So he is terrified his family will literally lock him up to stop him from leaving. So the prince makes a really dramatic choice. He climbs to the very highest tower of his palace, and he jumps. Now, this isn't an act of despair, it's a huge act of faith. As you can see here, he actually calls out to the Buddha as he falls. And in that exact moment, a divine intervention happens. A beam of light shoots out, and a giant lotus flower appears out of thin air to catch him. And his leap of faith pays off. He's transported safely and lands right at the feet of the Buddha, Chang Li Hui. He has finally escaped his gilded cage. His worldly life is officially over, and his spiritual life has just begun. But hold on, the story doesn't end there. In fact, this is where things get really, really interesting. The conflict between the father and the son is about to take a completely unexpected turn, revealing that maybe there's more than one way to get to the ultimate truth. So instead of being heartbroken, King Yanyi and the entire kingdom actually follow the prince. And after hearing the Buddha's teachings, the king himself has an awakening. The son goes on to serve the Buddha for 300 million Koti years. That's an ancient number that means a nearly unimaginable amount of time. And here's the twist. The father's worldly love for his son is what ultimately led him to the exact same spiritual truth his son found by giving everything up. And now we get to the final incredible revelation. The Buddha, who's been telling this entire story, reveals that this isn't just some nice parable. It is his own memory. It's a personal story from one of his past lives, and it has some pretty cosmic implications. The reveal is just, wow. The father, King Yanyi, would one day become Amitabha Buddha, the Buddha of infinite light. And the son, Prince Fuyan, was actually a past incarnation of the storyteller himself, Shakyamuni Buddha, the one who started it all. Their ancient fight wasn't about right versus wrong. It was about two different but equally powerful paths to the exact same awakening. And so, the story leaves us with this huge question. The father's path was fueled by worldly love, a very human kind of love. The son's path was driven by this transcendent wisdom, a desire to go beyond. But they both ended up at the same destination. It really makes you ask, what does that mean for us? Maybe the path to truth isn't about choosing between the world and what's beyond it, but about understanding how both can eventually lead you to the same place.